Welcome to Talking Head. This is the podcast where we talk about all things queer. I think that's our tagline now. I am Max.
And I'm Laura.
And today we will be talking about trigger warning dysphoria.
Yeah, so we've got like a pretty interesting conversation lined up, I think. We've talked about different sources of dysphoria. So, for instance, body dysphoria versus social dysphoria, about our personal experiences with dysphoria, about the way cis people think about trans people being obsessed with our bodies and, you know, having this view on dysphoria and stuff. And then we end it with a banger, which is ways to alleviate dysphoria, because we're pros, but we're really not, so I don't know. Just have a listen, I guess. So, you wanted to talk about dysphoria.
Yes. Dysphoria is interesting because everyone probably experiences it differently, and there's no right or wrong way to experience dysphoria or to, handle it also. I'm interested to know how you would define it, maybe, gender dysphoria.
Oh,
It's a difficult
I
one.
suppose, yeah, it is. The like semantic way is like dysphoria is the opposite of euphoria, right? And euphoria is feeling like super great about, in this case, your body, I suppose. So I would say dysphoria is like feeling miserable about your body.
Yeah.
How would you describe it?
I mean, I've always kind of found dysphoria to be quite a weird word to describe gender dysphoria, because, like you said, it's the opposite of euphoria, which just feels kind of weird to me. It's not like when I think of euphoric, I'm like out of this world happy, and that the opposite of that doesn't feel like an appropriate way to define what I feel when I feel gender dysphoria, if that makes sense. So in that sense, I've always kind of found it a weird word, but I've kind of made my own definition of it, I guess, in a more like practical way. Just being, gender dysphoria is a feeling of being uncomfortable with social settings or your body in a way that's related to gender and how you're perceived and how you feel, what gender you feel, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's also like an important distinction to make, is that there's body dysphoria. I don't know if that's the technical term at all, but it's like very much rooted in, I really can't stand these like specific features of my body that like make me one gender, like sex characteristics and all that stuff, and like facial features and definition. And then there's also social dysphoria, which has much more to do with, this person is using the wrong pronouns for me, and that, triggers something, or I have to go to the bathroom in a public place, and I have to make a decision, and it's hard. So those are like two very distinct different situations, but they trigger like the same like emotion, I'd say, or just the same feeling.
Yeah, it's also interesting because I feel like now looking back on the dysphoria I used to have, it's kind of a mix of the two sometimes, because at times I wasn't sure where the body dysphoria ended, and where the social dysphoria started, kind of, because I felt like I didn't always know whether, for example, my breasts were something I inherently felt dysphoric about, or whether it was because people saw me and connected, having breasts with femininity, and that was where my dysphoria came from. So it's kind of interesting to talk about that and see it as different things. So I feel like I always felt like a lot of my dysphoria was social dysphoria, but maybe I was wrong. So I don't know.
It's I think it's very hard to distinguish like the two, or to distinguish the source, because these things are so inherently tied together.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to unsee the like the social impact that your body has in that way. And so it's hard to decipher, like, okay, am I feeling this because I feel this about my body, or am I feeling this because I am feeling things about how other people look at me? Yeah. And I think it's not important to know, maybe, because like obviously
yeah,
you're feeling shit either way.
It comes down
no
to
matter no matter the source, it just sucks. But it's definitely interesting, like you say.
Yeah, and I think it's also in my case specifically, to delve a bit deeper into my personal experience with dysphoria, it's interesting to look back, because obviously I started my medical transition when I was 17, I think, 16, 17.
Late?
Yeah, I only came out as trans when I was almost 16, so yeah.
Oh man, it feels like way earlier.
I mean, it's still like 6 years ago by now.
Yeah, but I don't know, still I feel old, I don't know.
But yeah, it's interesting because I mean, I've gone through a whole change since coming out the first time, because obviously I felt like a trans guy, so a lot of the dysphoria I felt was tied to physical features, I'd say, like my breasts and also my voice and stuff like that, my hips, my shoulders, all that, and it's been 5 years since I had top surgery, and I've been on hormones for 6 years, so it's the dysphoria experience right now is a lot different from the one I experienced back then, and a lot of it has subsided, luckily. Thankfully. I'm happy about that, but it's kind of weird because I don't really remember what it feels like to have breasts, so I don't really remember what it feels like to have dysphoria, really.
That's
which is
so
really
wild.
Yeah, it's really weird, and it happened like super quickly as well. It's so fascinating how quickly I like accustomed to having a flat chest and just not having breast anymore, not having like chest dysphoria anymore.
Wow.
It's so weird. But
would that be because it's like, because dysphoria is like, I feel is very rooted in this feeling like, oh, this part of me is wrong. So would it be like, this is just like me like making up shit, basically? Can we even curse in this podcast? Have we thought about this?
We make our own rules.
Yeah. But like, basically, would this be because once you've had the surgery and now that you have a flat chest, it like feels right, and therefore maybe you don't remember how it was before, because everything just like is complete now, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I do feel like that because it's like they say, you don't know what you miss. No, that's not accurate. Or relevant.
The other way around.
Yeah. No, but it's like there was something that was causing me dysphoria, so once that was taken away, it no longer is like a thing, if that makes sense.
It's no longer something you have to think about, so basically you stop thinking about it, because it's like, kind of the same. All is well now. Yeah, it's kind of the same with like menstruating, I would say, because I never really had like intense periods, so it wasn't like that big of a deal in terms of dysphoria for me, because it lasted like 3 days and that was over, and it was never like super painful or anything. But then once I like started a T and I stopped menstruating, it just like, I literally forget that I ever had like periods. It's really weird. Wow.
So that's also a thing, like it used to be there, now it's just not there anymore, so I don't think about it anymore. if that makes sense.
That does make sense, because like, yeah, why think about something that's not there and that you like don't miss?
Yeah,
like
absolutely. But it's really weird how like fast your psyche like evolves, I guess, and adapts to things changing. Is in such a way that I don't even remember what it was like anymore. But yeah, coming back kind of to what I was saying earlier, the dysphoria I felt back then was a lot more intense, I would say, and a lot of that has gone away through hormones and having top surgery. But instead I got like new dysphoria.
Sweet.
Yeah, because as that was kind of also what made me realize that I was non-binary, because once I kind of like started living as a guy, I then got like new forms of dysphoria that made me realize that I wasn't actually a guy. So yeah, it's a wild ride.
Thanks, universe.
Yeah.
Love this.
Oh my god.
Yeah. No, I feel like that makes sense to me as well, because in a way I feel, first of all, I feel very reluctant talking about my own dysphoria. I've discussed that with you before starting the podcast, because I was like, oh, I don't know about this, and then like 3 seconds before we like started this call, I realized why. And I think that's because so much of like the discourse and the talk about like being trans and being on the queer spectrum and all that is all about about the body, and it's all about specifically for like binary trans people, is often like, oh, have you had this surgery yet? Have you had that surgery yet? Blah blah blah. And people have also asked me like, are you gonna have surgery? Are you gonna start T? Are you gonna be on hormones? And I'm very reluctant to like give people, mainly like cis people, that information, because I'm like, you have no right to,
it's none of your business.
Yeah, exactly. It's none of your business, and you have no right just like asking these things. You have no right to equate my identity to my body. Yeah. Because no matter what my body looks like, in my head I am still queer.
Yeah.
I'm still a queer person, no matter what I do with this body. If I ever decide to, start a transition or not, or whatever, like, this body is always mine, and it will always be a queer body. So that's why I'm very reluctant to like talk about dysphoria, because I feel like I'm then stepping into a narrative like, oh, so you have dysphoria, so that's why you're queer. I'm like, no, I could not have dysphoria and still be queer. And because of this entire rant, I forgot the point I was going to make. I think it was about, changes in dysphoria. Yeah, because I do feel that as well. Like, I used to be way more dysphoric, but I think for me it was mainly a lot of it is social dysphoria, where I'm like, because people see me as a woman, that triggers something in me where I'm like, oh no, that is no, that is just plain wrong. But then, and this was like really bad when I was like still closeted, because people see you as a woman all the time, and then now, like 5-6 years down the line of being out, I'm a lot more comfortable, and I experience a lot less dysphoria because people use the right pronouns for me, which takes away a lot of that. And so I know that people see me as this queer person, and so I don't feel the need to change my body as much, because, people see me as queer and they see me as me. So it's like all good. And it's really interesting to see how that like subsided.
Yeah, that's really interesting that like people just viewing you and using pronouns is such a big like solution to some of your dysphoria. That's amazing.
Yeah, right? It's fascinating to me as well. And it's not always the case. Like, some days it's still just like, oh, the shape this body is in is not the shape that I like ideally would have wanted to be born with, but I guess we'll deal with it today. But most of it really is social dysphoria, and that's really interesting to me. And that's why I also think it's like good to talk about these things, so that you know, other people hopefully for themselves can also figure out like, oh, okay, maybe the things I'm feeling are not because I don't like my body, but it's because I don't like the way people view me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, like I said, I think social dysphoria is like was the biggest part of my dysphoria, and I think it still is. And something I've also kind of learned, I guess, recently, is that, you know, obviously gender is such a okay, it's like a saying, but gender is a social construct, obviously, and
gender is a social construct. Sorry,
yeah,
I had to.
But I mean, like, gender dysphoria in that way is like so tied to society that I feel like social dysphoria is probably for most people a really big part of their dysphoria. And it is interesting because I mean, clearly my my chest dysphoria must have been like so huge that I couldn't really you know, look past it or overcome it without top surgery. But it is interesting that like right now I'm kind of learning to deal with dysphoria I do still have by just knowing my identity and knowing that I'm valid and you know, all that stuff, and not really having to change anything to cure my dysphoria, but just knowing that regardless of what my body looks like, I am me, I am queer, I am whatever, and that's never going to change, you know? Like, I'm not more or less valid according to what my body looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And you're also not more or less valid whether or not you experience like a high or low amount of dysphoria, because that's something I really had to like learn like when I just like realized I was queer. I was like, okay, but if I don't want surgeries and if I don't want testosterone and all that stuff, then, you know, am I queer enough? Which is such a harmful like way to think and such a harmful like thing to believe in, because, you know, you can be queer in every single way, and, you know, queer is queer enough, full stop. There shouldn't be any like gatekeeping on that, and I think that's also, I'm pretty sure that there's also like a large amount of discourse on dysphoria in that sense, definitely in, I want to say, the United States mostly, maybe, because I feel, so I know that gender dysphoria is classified as a mental illness. I
mean, it used to be, I think. Right?
Is it not anymore?
I don't think so.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I think it got like a few years ago they got rid of it.
got checked out. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then I wonder if the discourse is still the same and whether I have just been living under a rock or reading outdated
might be, but
things.
I feel like they just changed. Maybe gender dysphoria is still in like the DSM, but I feel like they just removed the word disorder from it. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that
so
could
it's like
be
a symptom but not a disorder, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But
I
it's still interesting to me, and I think there's still probably discourse then, or feel.
I mean, there will always be discourse because we have the internet.
Yay! But my point is that it's so interesting that there's this. It's a very classical way of looking at gender, I suppose, where it's like, we used to be like, well, if you have dysphoria, then you're like trans or queer, and then you can do something about it by, you know, transitioning. And I think it's cool that in a short period of time we've progressed into like looking past that and into being like, well, there's more ways to be queer, and you can choose to, for instance, microdose testosterone, or you can kind of more like pick and choose what things you kind of wanna adapt about yourself in order to to feel more like yourself.
If you do at all, like...
If you do at all, yeah exactly. Yeah, because I've had conversations with people who like founded what is it, like a foundation or something, or like an information source here in the Netherlands, I suppose. And like I've had a conversation with them, and they told me like back in the day, in the Netherlands, you had to be like, first of all, you had to like be what's the word, like diagnosed, I suppose, which I think in a way is still the same. You still have to like talk to a psychologist if you want to transition, and then you'll like figure out like, okay, if you really want to transition, then like go for it. And then back in the day, you had to undergo an entire transition. You couldn't like decide like, oh, I only want like chest surgery and then I'm good.
Oh wow.
You had to basically go through everything in order to become like a real quote unquote like man or woman or whatever. Yeah. Which is so harmful and so crazy. And that really like blew my mind. Yeah. Because I was just like, how can you still force people into basically just a different category, but still like into a category. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if that ever was the case in Belgium, but at least when I started my transition, and when I say transition, I mean medical transition, because obviously like you can cut your hair and stuff like that. That's also kind of a transition. But in the beginning, I did have to go through 9 months at least of gender therapy to like make sure that gender dysphoria and things tied to gender were the source of my sadness, to put it like that.
Sadness.
My sadness. But yeah, when I started those therapy sessions, they did ask me what surgeries I was possibly interested in. And I had always just felt like I wanted to start hormones and then have top surgery, and that was it. And I never really experienced any issues because of that from the gender clinic in Belgium. So I think it might have been a bit better in that sense here. I don't think anyone was ever forced, hopefully, to undergo like all the surgeries. But yeah, I mean, I did get like, I had always said I didn't want bottom surgery, and they still gave me like appointments with the surgeon for bottom surgery, and I was just like, I mean, thanks, but like,
yeah, that still feels like low key, like pressuring you. It feels kind of like your parents being like, are you sure you don't want to become a lawyer instead of going to film school? Like, it feels very that.
I've arranged for you to meet with a lawyer. You can talk about it.
Yeah. Exactly. Which is, so wild. And it's so interesting as well that, like, even, like, trans healthcare, I guess, in that way is still, like, for the longest time has been from such a, like, cis-normative point of view.
Yeah.
And speaking of like this cis normative point of view, I'm really interested, or like I really want to talk a bit about what like cis people mostly say to like trans and queer people in the terms of like talking about body and stuff, because there have been things that have been said to me that I've been like, oh wow, oh oh honey, you really like, get it, honey.
Oh god, I mean, I can't really think of examples, so you can go ahead and I'll just like get in there.
Cool. Yeah, so my ultimate favorite, or like the one that I can just echoes in my brain from time to time, I suppose, is this one where someone like told me it was like after like having had sex and stuff, and this person was like, you know what I really admire is that you're like so cool and confident about your body, even though you're like, queer and non-binary and all that stuff, and you're really struggling with that. It was something like that was the connotation, and I was just like, I didn't know what to say. I was like, yeah, I'm confident in my body. Just because I'm queer doesn't mean I hate all of me. I was just like, oh god, I understood that it was like meant as this very sweet and kind thing, but I was just like, oh, you are presuming so much about me and my relationship with my body just because I'm queer.
Yeah.
And to this day, like, that still echoes in my brain where I'm like,
I mean, the whole like thing of cis people saying you're so brave, or like, I admire you. I'm like, I'm just living my life. That's one of the things I hate the most. Ugh. And especially when it's like to do with my body, or like surgeries, or just starting a transition. Like, people have so many opinions, and even though they like mean it in a nice way, and they're trying to like compliment you, it's just so cringy.
Have you had the thing where people say like, oh, you're trans? I never would have thought.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Ugh.
But they also like say it to your face, like, oh, I'm such a surprise. You turned out so well, or like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, I could have never guessed. So yeah.
I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna hurl. I'm gonna hurl and cry at the same time.
Yeah, but it's such an obsession. Like, cis people are obsessed with trans people's bodies.
Oh my god, I just remembered another story. So, remember in like 2nd grade, for my media studies, we had to make a human interest feature.
No, I don't.
And oh my god, really? Because like
we so
ended up, we
second
made
year
a human
of college.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah. And so we made a human interest feature about you.
Yes.
Because were you in transition during that time? I don't even remember.
Yeah, that was like 2016, I think.
I think so, yeah.
Because I think I'd had top surgery, and I had been on T for quite a while.
Yeah, I think so too. And so we decided to like make a human interest feature about you, because it was easy because I knew you.
Yeah.
College, baby. Easy credits. And then we wrote down like this like shopping list script, and we had like pieces in there of like you explaining what binders are, a bit like that, and just all kind of like easy and respectful stuff, a conversation with your mom about like what it was like for her to learn that her kid was like coming out and stuff. And then I remember going to my teacher like being like, yeah, it's good, blah blah blah, whatever, but I think you should ask what's in their pants. And I was just like,
Excuse me?
sorry. I'm sorry, but you can't do that. That's uncalled for. And my teacher was like, yeah, but you gotta it's human interest, and you gotta even like dive into the taboos or whatnot, because people do want to know, and people are interested in that. And I was like, sir, no.
The taboos are the opposite of what's in my pants, because everyone wants to know what's in my pants.
Right? Like, and I was like, and it's not, this does not have to do with it being taboo. This has got to do with like basic respect.
Yeah.
You're not gonna ask a cis person what's in their pants.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna ask a trans person what's in their pants. So just like basically like put my foot down, was like, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Like, whatever he says, I don't care, I'll get a lower grade, but that's just not happening. And then I remember like us working it into into the human interest feature still by asking you, what's the most annoying question you get asked? And you answered.
Right. I remember that.
Yeah.
That was definitely not scripted.
Yeah, I mean,
not planned.
So you answered with people asking me what's in my pants, and I was just like, there you go, teacher. That's a big subtle F you.
Yeah, but honestly though, like, especially a few years ago when trans people were in the media those few times, it was always about like surgeries and their bodies and, you know, how hard it is to have a penis as when you're a woman. Like, bitch, fuck off. There are, yeah, I don't know.
Right?
People are obsessed with our genitals for some reason.
Exactly, and that's, I guess, also why I felt like that much like reservation like talking about this, because it was like, my body is mine, and I don't want anyone to like make up their own narrative about me when I do say that I do experience dysphoria, because I do from time to time, but I don't want people to immediately latch on to that and be like, oh, they must hate their body and yada yada, and so brave that they like still are confident and like whatnot. So yeah, I just find that like really interesting.
Yeah, and maybe it's also interesting for cis people who hear about this, and maybe it's like the first real conversation they hear about dysphoria, to know that, as we said, like social dysphoria is probably the biggest part of the dysphoria we do experience, even though it might not be maybe as deep in a sense. I don't know how to like explain this, but I feel like dysphoria, well, at least speaking from my experiences, like the dysphoria I feel or felt about my chest was on like a different level as you know, having to pick a bathroom. You know what I mean?
I guess it has to do with the fact that like social dysphoria kind of passes. Yeah. Because it's like, for instance, someone uses the wrong pronoun, and you know, a spoken word only lasts for a second. Yep. And then it's gone again. And the feeling maybe like lingers a bit, but then you move on with your day and you say goodbye to that person, and you know, it passes. But you're in your body 24/7, so that's way more of a deep-seated uncomfortableness that you can't escape from, because you can't run from your body. You're literally in it all the time. So in that sense, I do feel like body dysphoria is a much more heavy feeling in that sense, because you can't. There's no relief. It's just there.
But I feel like it's kind of weird, because like we kind of you know, said the opposite things, because we in one sense, like body dysphoria is more like intense, but then social dysphoria is more prevalent. So it's kind of weird.
Okay. Oh, well, okay. Good point. Yes. Well, I guess like, at least for me it is that way, like on because I don't always experience dysphoria, but on days that I experience like dysphoria about my body, it's like, it's this very deep-seated uncomfortableness that I can't shake, and almost the entire day is just an off day. It's like, you know, it's like when you wake up sad or whatever. It's just like, okay, I guess I'll be sad today. It's just that
it's a dysphoria day.
It just happens, whatever. But then, so when it happens, it's like bad, but it's something that I know I will survive, and it will pass. Maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and it will not be there anymore. So it's like fine for me, at least. Or I can like seriously think about like, okay, if I experience this often, maybe I'll like wear binders more, or maybe I'll consider surgery. You know, there's solutions. It's fixable, and it's fixable within your own control.
Yeah, that's a big thing, I think.
Whereas social dysphoria is like, this person like is saying this, it happens almost daily, even daily, you know, and this person like says this thing, and I can't change the way they view me. Yeah. I can only keep explaining, please don't say that word, I'm queer, but I can change the way they view me, and I can try, but as long as they keep misgendering me, in my head the narrative is, oh, okay, so you still see me, in my case, as a girl, right? Yeah. So, and I can change that. So in that sense, it's fleeting, but it's also more annoying because it's outside of your control. Yeah. So it also leaves you feeling like a little hopeless at times, because it's like, what am I supposed to do? I've already told you I'm queer. I've already told you my pronouns. What am I, how can I can't erase this from my life unless I transition, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a really good way to like explain the difference, I think. It's kind of weird because I'd never really thought about this, obviously. But it is, like, it does make sense to me at least, and I hope it does to the audience as well.
Yeah, same, because, like, I only really came to this conclusion as we had this conversation as well.
Exactly.
I was like, oh, wait, this is why. Wait, the one is, like, in my
We're
control,
basically
and
having
it is
therapy.
a control thing. Right? Free therapy, yay!
So, yeah, I think that was a good one.
Right?
Maybe for trans people who might be watching, or people who experience
or just
dysphoria.
Listening.
Well, yeah. It might be interesting to kind of talk about how we used to or still do alleviate dysphoria. Maybe we can help some people out there. Who knows? That would be nice.
Yeah.
You said it.
Do you want to like kick us off? Even though I guess it's well. I mean, do you still need to alleviate like dysphoria often?
I would say that I don't experience dysphoria as often anymore, but sometimes I do, and mostly it's linked to pronouns, or just like gendered words. People calling me like dude or bro. But yeah, sometimes my body, because I obviously like testosterone makes me look masculine, stereotypically, which does cause dysphoria sometimes. But I think what has really helped me is kind of what I mentioned earlier as well, in like realizing that regardless of my body, I still am me, and that doesn't like take away from my identity. That's like a big thing that has really helped. And also like just surrounding you with people who are, understanding of you being trans, first of all, and second of all, just body positive. That really helps for me. Just like, for example, like people, like gay guys who do like think I'm cute really helps, and also them complimenting my body and still seeing me as queer and respecting my identity. That's like a really big thing that does help me.
For me, like in a like tactical, practical kind of sense, like what you can do. I mean, I guess you can go on Tinder and find someone who compliments you to make you feel better. I suppose that's, it's a coping mechanism, sure. But for me, what I found that really helps also comes back to like that sense of like being seen for who you are. So I'll often like text you and just be like, this is a bad day, this is not good, I feel dysphoric, this sucks, the XYZ person said this thing, just kind of rant, let it all out, and then you'll just be like, I'm so sorry, boo. And I'm like, thank you. That's all I needed. just have people that you can vent to, I guess, and have people that,
A support system.
Yeah, have a support system. What else can you do? I like to, like, wear baggier clothes on days that I, like, feel more dysphoric, or, like, wear a binder, or just basically, like, get yourself as comfortable as possible, because your day is going to be uncomfortable, so you might as well, like, try to be the most comfortable you can still be by wearing your favorite outfit, by doing the tiny things that you can do to make yourself feel good. I think also a big thing that I used to do when I had like chest dysphoria was wear layers. A t-shirt and an open like shirt, button down shirt. Call me out.
I didn't even realize.
For people that are just listening, this is literally my outfit.
Or black. Takes away all shape.
I'm just a blob. Please see me for who I am. A blob.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite unfortunate that we are assigned female at birth people, so we can't really give tips to like AMAB people. Yeah. It's such a weird abbreviation, by the way.
I know. I mean, is it... it's funny that you say like AMAB and AFAB, because I always say like AMAB, AFAB,
Oh.
ACAB. But yeah, I mean, I guess like, you know, make yourself feel comfortable, like wear the clothes you're most comfortable in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that you can wear for your situation. I feel like that can apply to anyone.
Yeah.
As well as like rant can also apply to anyone.
Definitely.
Like, just vent, get it all
Yeah.
out.
Talk about it.
Yeah, and what else? I used to like, listening to music that makes you feel good, or that makes you feel pumped up, or that makes you feel like, you know, more secure in yourself, really helped me. I also liked to like watch shows or stuff with like queer icons that I could be like, okay, but there's, you know, there's these people out there living their authentic like ways, and, you know, they get looked at for who they truly are, and
Yeah.
so will I.
Mm-hmm. I think like, yeah, like you say, like representation is good, but also not trying not to compare yourself to other people. I know that like, I remember being like at the start of my transition, or being like pre-transition, and just watching these like YouTubers, older trans guys, and just being like, oh my god, I'm so like envious of their transition and what their bodies look like, even though I knew that they still experienced dysphoria sometimes, and, you know, they still weren't happy with their bodies. I was just like so envious of them being on testosterone or having had top surgery, and it's really hard not to do that. But I feel like it is important maybe that if you know that you have a really dysphoric day, to not seek it out, you know, not watch those videos, not do the things that you know will give you more dysphoria.
Yeah, oh, that's a really good point, because I think what I maybe also like used to do if I had a dysphoric day, I would like search for all these people that I kind of wanted to look like, and then just like look at them, and like looking back on it, I'm like, why would I do that to myself if I already like didn't feel good?
Yeah.
But I don't know, I guess it's like sort of this like weird form of daydreaming, where it's like, you know, just looking at these people and being like, I wish that could be me one day. But, you know, think about why you're doing what you're doing, and like maybe think about, okay, is this making me feel better, or is this making me feel worse, and should I like maybe step back and do something else
not do
instead?
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel, I don't know, it all comes down to like, dysphoria sucks. Basically, you know, you just gotta try and deal with it. Yeah, it's really difficult. It is. I hope this was in some way informative, helpful, you know, a good podcast, I guess.
Again, feedback, any feedback, questions,
we'll
any
take
questions.
It all.
We'll take it all.
All right. Thanks for watching. See you next time. What?
The finger guns. I'm so sorry.
Excuse me, I'm bisexual.
We should make this our official outro. Just thanks for watching. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching. Goodbye.